Huge show on the DNVR Broncos podcast where we are breaking down the big day in Indianapolis yesterday. George Payton and Sean Payton talked for 45 minutes breaking down all things Denver Broncos, and we're going to tell you the biggest takeaways from that starting now. The Broncos are back, baby, and we're back on the DNVR Broncos podcast. 45 minutes from Sean Payton and George Payton yesterday, and we've got a loaded show live from the Toyota Lounge inside the DNVR Bar, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. We are the DNVR Broncos podcast. Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis to my left, Henry Chisholm to my right. We got you here behind the camera, and Zach Stevens rocking and rolling with you today. Before we jump in, the craziest thing is happening on our set right now. Uh-oh. We have two Houston Astros hats. Houston Astros? What? Todd, explain.
I mean, sometimes just colorways go with certain outfits. It doesn't mean I have to love the team. Doesn't mean I'm a fan of the team. It just, I feel like it worked. Get a little blue in the jacket, a little blue in the hat, a little cream in the hat, a little cream in the shirt. That's just...
No, it does work. It definitely works. So you have to explain yourself. Did you do yours for the colorway as well? Or are you protesting the Rockies season, maybe spiting Henry by going anti-Rockies here? What's the deal?
I'm actually with Todd here. The gray fits a little bit better with this gray. The white, the color combo fits a lot better than any other hat I have.
Sure.
I've worn every other hat like 15 times already. I'm like, I got to switch it up here and then.
Well, you're looking sharp. And Henry, did you go for the colorway as well? Because you've got the black hat with the black jeans and the black sweatshirt.
Abs play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
it's actually not colorway, but it does work.
Oh, exactly. I was like,
that?
they have the list. It's like, abs, sure. It's like it works out. It's a little too much black.
I never think about that.
I think it's, because you don't watch every Avs game. And you certainly don't watch every Astros game.
Anytime I wear a hat, like when I pick up my like LA hat, I don't even think Dodgers.
Yeah.
I just think like LA. Like,
well, because that hat's like bigger.
Yeah.
It's bigger than just the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's suspicious that, according to Complex.com, there are 5 different gangs in the U.S. who use Astro hats to show their affiliations. So I might have some questions for you guys afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, he asked us. Me and you here, and I are supposed to know which gangs wear Astro hats. Why is that?
Yeah, it's
why do we know?
Singled
Why would we know?
I'm just saying, like, Astros hats out of nowhere. You both seem to be, you wear them the same day. It can't just be a coincidence.
So we're a gang.
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't heard of most of these gangs, but I don't know. One of them has a 5-pointed logo, which is why they chose the Astros, because of the 5 points on the star.
Yeah.
That would be the People Nation of Chicago, of course.
Very nice.
Yeah.
One is the Hoover.
Yes, Hoover Criminals. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do know a couple of those guys.
You don't know them too well, though, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
That's good news. It's also good news coming out of the Combine. We got some news. Start off with the best news. Bo Nix had a procedure on his ankle. Remember the one that was made a big fuss about because he decided to not go to the Pro Bowl so that he could have this procedure done? It was to his ankle. It was a very minor procedure. I think I heard 10 or 12 other Broncos have had the same type of procedure done to some part of their body since the season ended.
Oh, okay.
We just don't hear about those ones because it didn't impact the rookie quarterback going to a Pro Bowl or not. So extremely routine. Bo Nix is in the building every single day working out and working out, which is key. So like his ankle truly is fine. It's not a big deal. It was not related to the back injury that happened. So we'll start off with some good news there.
That's perfect. I mean, Bo's health is of the utmost important, and I think everybody in the training staff, from Vince to Bo, everybody knows that. So they want to make sure he's on track and just a little bit of touch-ups, Yeah. In the offseason, sometimes you need that, and could be very, very unimportant, but at the same time, it could help with the next season.
I said this on the Denver Sports Podcast yesterday, but I went to the gym every day for like a year, a couple years ago, and rode the exercise bike. And like some days I go for like 2 hours because I was just like trying to lose weight, and it worked. But then my knee has really hurt for the past 2 years. Like I'll just be doing stuff and my knee will get a little bit sore. When I went skiing last weekend, it was like sore, and then there was just this big circular bruise like right in the dead center on the top of my knee. It's like, that's probably bad.
You need it drained or something.
I need a scope. Like Bo, I need somebody to go scrape something out of there.
Yeah. Sean had a little scope on his knee too. So everyone's banged up, but everyone's going to be fine come the season. Okay, so we started with the good news. You guys want to go to hell right now?
No, I'm never going there.
Just the complete opposite?
No.
Well, you might be going there if you ever play a team, a Sean Payton-led team that has a joker. Because according to George Payton, he said when he's played teams that Sean Payton has a joker, he said, quote, "I've played Sean's teams that have had jokers, and it's hell." And this was one of the biggest things that came out of yesterday. And I think we're only going to continue to hear more about it every time George or Sean speaks. Is this all-important joker role? Sean Payton confirmed to us that it's a tight end or a running back. And then, so I asked, what about Marvin Mims? Because you kind of used him as a joker. And he said, no, that's not really, he wasn't a joker. We can still use him in that role, even if we get another joker. That's just someone who we like getting the ball in his hands. So we try to get the ball in his hands in different ways. It's not the joker role. So you can't really have a joker as a wide receiver in Sean's eyes. So it's a tight end or a running back, and there was just so much emphasis on finding the joker, but it's not easy. George Payton said finding a joker is like finding the Loch Ness Monster because there's only a handful of them out there. You know, there's Jahmyr Gibbs, there's Bijan, there's Saquon. There's not many guys out there right now, but he added, quote, "We'll find one." How difficult is it going to be for them to find one?
Yeah. You know, we had this conversation. I was talking to Harrison yesterday, and he just said, like, are you sick of hearing the word joker? I was like, absolutely. Every time you hear it, it's just like, but it has become this offseason of the joker, and every time you tweet something with the joker, there's like 50 replies like, can we please, like, no more stories about this? And the bad news is, I don't think they're going to find one, and I think we've got a whole nother year of just like joker, and it's just going to be like this big storyline all the way through. Because as George Payton said, you can count on one hand how many there are. And it's like Sean said, maybe there's one or two in any given draft. So as much as you can, like in theory, it's like, yes, just go get a Christian McCaffrey. It's really hard just to go get a Christian McCaffrey, you know? Like it's not something that you can just be like, oh, yep, go grab that and we're off and running. So yeah, I struggle with it. I think, again, when you look through these running backs in the draft, it's hard to say, like, is that guy really is a joker? Like Ashton Genty, we talked about yesterday. If it's third down, you flex him out in the slot. Are you confident he's beating a linebacker and getting you 5 yards on 3rd and 5? Because that's what a joker does.
Yes.
And if you are?
Yes.
You think you don't think Alex Singleton covers him on a slant from the slot?
I think Ashton Genty is special.
Okay.
And I think he is a joker.
Okay. I think he's really good, but I still just have that question. Like, does he have that? Because he has so many other things. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out.
I mean,
so I think they will find one, and
Yeah.
I think that because now if we're talking about like a Saquon Barkley or a Christian McCaffrey, like you said, it's probably one in each draft, and it's tough to find. But I think there are a few Austin Ecklers in every draft, and I would definitely consider him a joker. What he can do out the backfield catching the ball and how well he runs the ball as a running back. So you might not be able to like find the bell cow first round pick joker, but somewhere within the draft, because they're so keyed in on finding one, I think they'll find one.
I think they have to find one.
Yeah.
And so they are going to find one. Now, are they going to trade up to the 3rd overall pick and spend 2 future first-round picks to get him? Of course not. No. But there's a reason why, Henry, you're sick of hearing about the Joker.
Yeah.
Is because it's such an emphasis from Sean Payton. And if your head coach or if your general manager knows how important the Joker role is, and then knows how important it is for his head coach to have one, and then knows how important it is and how much it stresses a defense, so much saying like it's hell playing against it, why would you not go get that hell piece for your head coach, for your offensive-minded head coach, for your rookie, or I guess now your second year quarterback? You're going to go and get that guy. And so I disagree, Henry. I think the Broncos are going to get it this year. I think it's going to be a staple of this team. And then you also look, this isn't as difficult as saying, like, for a decade, we said, all the Broncos have to do to be competitive is go out and get a quarterback. Okay, that's a lot more difficult said than done, especially if you're picking 20, because the quarterbacks are going in the top 3 if you want one. Last year, the Broncos were lucky. One fell to 12. Jokers aren't top 3 picks year after year after year. Alvin Kamara was a 3rd-round pick. Jahmyr Gibbs, what pick was he? 20? He was 12th. There, you get jokers that fall to the 2nd round, late 1st round, 3rd round, and especially we're talking about running backs. It can also be that tight end position. Tight ends are a position that's so undervalued that does fall. And we've talked about kind of 2 guys so far, and we'll talk about more. But there's Tyler Warren, and then there's Loveland. He's a legit joker, and every mock draft has him falling to the Broncos at 20, if not further. So I don't think it's crazy, and in fact, I do think the Broncos get one this year.
They don't have a long list of stuff they have to do in this offseason. It's really maybe 3 things: find a joker, either sign DJ Jones or find another D tackle, and then figure out linebacker. I think that's pretty much it.
And then also get a true runner. Let's say you get a joker as a tight end. Then you need that runner too.
Yeah. So that's like 1A and 1B.
Right.
But I mean, like, they don't have a long list of things they do in the offseason, so they really can focus on finding that guy.
The tough part is, like, for the first time though, like, if you just take him at their word and say there might be 1 or 2 of them in any given draft, there are 32 teams who are out there drafting, and so you could really like a guy and say we really want him, and I guess you could always trade up, but you also had Sean say, it's a must, but he added not at all costs. Like, you're not going to sell out to go get it. And that's just why, for the first time...
I think that was George.
Oh, was that?
I don't know if Sean would ever say not at all costs.
No, I think that was... I have it as Sean. I could be wrong. I also have, certainly you hit a couple of positions that fit into that must realm, and yet I would say not at all costs. Sounds like a Sean way of saying things.
Okay.
And yet I would say, so that's just where I think, again, they really want one, but if you're really looking for, like, that George Kittle, like, freaky type player, there just aren't that many that exist.
George Kittle, where was he picked?
5th round.
5th round, exactly.
Again, but, like, how many of those 5th round tight ends did not turn into George Kittle? It's a lot of them.
So really quick, when it comes to the not at all costs, even if that was Sean who said that, and it very might have well been, again, like I said, the Broncos aren't, it isn't not at all costs. This isn't a quarterback. This isn't finding your franchise. You're not going to trade 2 first-round picks in order to get in the top 5 to draft Tyler Warren if you think he's the guy. No, you're going to have to wait, and you hope that Loveland's that guy. So not at all costs, yes, but using a first-round pick is not at all costs.
Definitely.
And also, the tight end position is so undervalued that could definitely fall to you. And unlike quarterback, not every team is looking for the joker. There's a reason why this has popped up, and we've had to explain what a joker is. Because barely any teams. The Broncos have never wanted a joker before Sean Payton got here. We've never heard that term.
Not with that word.
Exactly. And the Broncos have not gone out and invested a first-round pick in a tight end like we're saying they might do. They haven't gone out and invested a first-round running back like we've said. So I think they're in a great spot where they want something that I think is niche right now, and not every team is looking for.
Again, if you just take them at their word, though, and they say there's maybe 1 or 2 in any given draft, what if they say those 2 are Tyler Warren and Ashton Genty? Well, there you go. Like, you're not getting it in the draft in that case. It's certainly not impossible if they do it. I'm just saying, for the first time ever, hearing them talk about it yesterday, it's like, you have to remember that there are a limited number of those guys. And while not every team calls it a joker, every team wants a dominant tight end. Every team wants a really good running back. And so even if they're not looking at through the joker lens, I mean, how long have we been saying the Broncos need to find a tight end? We just don't necessarily say it that way.
But I think if you look at it that way, every team wants every position. So I don't think that it stops the Broncos from getting Quinn Miners when they got them because other teams needed guards. They just found the right guard at the right time.
They did.
Didn't stop the Broncos from getting Bo Nix when 5 of the quarterbacks were drafted in front of them. They just found the right guy at the right time. Just because other teams want these players doesn't mean they're going to find the right guy. And it's the Broncos' job to find the right guy.
It is.
And whether they find him in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth round, it doesn't matter.
Free agency.
They just have to do a better job of evaluating, which Sean says they do. a better job of evaluating talent and find the guy. I think they have plenty of players on here that on this team who should have gone to other teams early in the draft or been drafted even though they were undrafted. They just have done a good job of finding talent. So I think that doesn't stop them from finding a joker because it doesn't matter what round you find them in. It's more so finding a guy that can fit Sean's offense. And sometimes that's not a first rounder. Sometimes it's not a second rounder. But it's a guy out of a small school who works hard, who grinds, and he looks at the film and says, I can let this guy play tight end. I can let this guy play in the backfield. I can move this guy around. It doesn't always have to be that top-tier guy.
It's exactly like Bo Nix last year, where the NFL train, as Sean Payton likes to talk about, was saying that Bo Nix is a third-round pick, second-round pick, shouldn't be drafted in the first round. And Sean didn't get on that train because he looked at what he could do and said, that's going to work with me. Yep. Maybe it wouldn't have worked with the Bears. Maybe Bo Nix would have gotten drafted, taken number 1 overall with Chicago, and they wouldn't have put him in the right system, and it would have been a bad pick. But Sean said, I can work with that. And I think a guy, after being in Indy for 36 hours, I think a guy we really need to focus on is Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, who's unanimously viewed as the second tight end in this draft. Everyone has him falling to the Broncos, if not further. I think that's a guy that Sean says he's going to be a lot better in my offense than people are projecting him to be. And people are projecting him to be good. I mean, people are still saying he's a first-round pick. So I think that's the guy that you really keep your eye on when it comes to that joker role right now. And again, that's why I think that he would fall to the Broncos at 20 there. Let's continue this conversation after I give a shout-out to our friends over at Factor Meal Kits, where if you need fast, delicious, convenient food delivered straight to you, Factor Meals is the way to go. They're dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel and feel great no matter what life throws you. I bet Broncos could use these during this time when there's no time to eat and they just send you food straight to you. You heat it up in 2 minutes. It arrives fast. It arrives fresh. It's fully prepared so you don't have to worry about cooking. And if you want to lose 8 pounds in 8 weeks, check out Factor's Keto Meals, which helps you with that. They have 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. So whatever you're looking for, whether it's keto, calorie smart, protein plus, they've got it taken care of. And Eat Smart with Factor, you can get 50% off your first box plus free shipping by going to factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use that code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off your first meal, or your 50% off your first shipment plus free shipping on your first box.
And shout out to UC Health, because DNVR Broncos is brought to you by UC Health, the preferred partner of athletes in Colorado. Staying healthy is important. Going to the gym. I actually didn't do that this morning, but I'm listening to the radio broadcast of the Rockies today after the show. So maybe I'll just get that in real quick right after, because staying on top of that stuff is really important. You can learn more about living like there is a tomorrow by going to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary.
And shout out to the Toyota chat. Everyone tuning in right now, hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in on the chat. Shout out to Todd, shout out to Hank, shout out to you here for holding it down, talking about the offense and defense these past few days. I'm pumped to be back with you guys. And let's dive back into this conversation. More of what we learned. So we've hit on Bo, we've hit on the Joker. Let's hit on the future of some key guys, and maybe we'll dive into depth on what these contract extensions could look like more in the next few days. But we found out some things about Courtland Sutton, DJ Jones, Nick Bonitto, and Javonte Williams and all of their futures here. So we know Courtland Sutton a year ago was not pleased with his contract situation. So he sat out all of the offseason program until mandatory minicamp. And then the Broncos gave him an additional $1.5 million in incentives in his contract. He hit that. Well, now he's under the exact same situation this year. One final year on the contract, making about $15 million in average annual. He wants more. So are the Broncos working on that? What are they going to do? Are they going to call his bluff again and make him finish out this contract? Well, the Broncos talked about this yesterday. Let's hear from them about what they're going to do with Courtland Sutton this offseason.
Sean addressed it. Courtland's one of our guys, team captain. I mean, I've said this for a couple of years in a row. We want him here. We'll have those discussions at the right time. We'll meet with his agent here like we always do. Yeah, with all the agents. We meet with all of our team's agents.
Sean Payton essentially echoed the exact same statement of we want Courtland here. We're going to meet with him. Now's not the right time to be talking about contract extensions, but those talks will happen. To me, this is newsworthy. They weren't saying that at this time last year. They weren't saying that when Courtland was holding out. They weren't saying that when training camp started. They were saying, yeah, we have a deal with Courtland right now. Now the tune's totally changed in my mind. Do you guys see it the same way?
I think it's a different circumstance just because they don't have a deal with Courtland. It expires after this year, you know? So, like, you rarely see the extensions or those sorts of things with 2 years left on the contract. But with 1 year left, this is kind of a normal time to have those talks.
But you don't have to. I've seen plenty guys just...
DJ Jones didn't get him last year.
Hey, we're just going to let him play through this contract. We'll see how it goes through. Like, the fact that they're willing to say, like, potentially we're going to have a conversation or two, it seems like they're very open to, you know, extending Courtland, at least having him here for not just 1 year, but maybe multiple. So I think it's a positive sign for sure.
Definitely. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, but like the offense is just way too reliant on Courtland Sutton right now to risk losing him. And we'll see what it looks like in 2 months. You might have Chris Godwin in there or Mike Gesicki or a bunch of these other guys. But as it stands now, like you really have one piece that you can rely on to contribute week in and week out in terms of skill position players. So, I mean, as Sean Payton said, he's important to what we're doing. Like he is very important, and that's why you kind of have to, at this point, keep him around unless something crazy happens in the next couple months.
And I don't think Courtland is a better player now than he was a year ago. A year ago, Courtland was coming off 10 touchdowns in an offense that was hit or miss with Russell Wilson. So Courtland was just as good of a player 2 years ago. He did have more production. He had a 1,000-yard season, career high 81 catches. But I think the biggest thing here is Bo. Like, Courtland's important to the offense. Courtland's so important to Bo, and you want to continue to help Bo's development. And then when you look at the receiver room, it's a lot of young guys. I don't think the Broncos are going to go out and sign a Chris Godwin or spend a lot of money in free agency on a receiver. I do think, and Sean Payton said this in the past month, that he likes the receiver room. He thinks it's better than everyone else thinks it is, and it's because Courtland's the number one, and then you have Marvin Mims, you have Javonte, you have all these other pieces that can be really good twos and step up and be really good threes. And Troy Franklin, Sean said complimentary things about last week or yesterday as well. I think Sean likes this receiver room. Now, if you take Courtland out of it or you make him pissed off and he holds out and then doesn't come back as the same player, well, then you go from like you like where it's trending to, oh my goodness. But I do think an extension happens because of how important Courtland is, specifically to Bo Nix. Why would you take away your second-year quarterback's favorite target and it wasn't even close?
Yeah, not even close. And I think your point about what he means to Bo is like 100% perfect because that's what I think changed the narrative is I think he had a great year with Russell Wilson, but Russ isn't our guy. If he likes you, then, you know, it is what it is. But now that Bo's our guy and you're important to him, we see that you're still the number one target for our quarterback. I think it's 100% on point. I think they should. He's done well. He's played well. He's been a leader. He's been a team captain, like they've said. Like, I think he showed up every year with his lunch pail and just went to work.
Yep.
So
took him a little bit longer to show up last year, but he showed up.
Eventually showed up to work.
And then really showed up when the lights came on. So we're all buying that. We all buy that George and Sean are telling the truth about an extension.
They need him, yeah.
Get done.
I think so, yeah.
So now tell me if you're buying or selling what the Broncos had to say about DJ Jones's future. Henry, you mentioned it. They didn't get DJ Jones' deal done before he became a free agent. He's set to become a free agent in just 2 weeks. But here's what the Broncos had to say about DJ's potential future with the team.
I mean, that's probably a better question for Sean. I mean, our run defense, we were top 5, I believe. You know, there's some games you're just playing a really good team. And I think you're talking maybe the Chargers or the Bills. Those are good teams, and we didn't play it good enough. Maybe it was just for a quarter or two we didn't play the run good enough. But I think we played really good run defense overall, you know, if you look at the whole totality of the season. But there are areas we can improve. We took a big step. I think we were late 20s in run defense 2 years ago, and this year we're in top 5. So we took that step. We'll keep building. You got to build in the trenches. You got to build that defensive line, and we plan on continuing to do that.
That's part I like.
So that was George talking about the run defense and the strengths being in the offense and defensive line. He did go back and talk about DJ specifically, and George Payton said, quote, would love to bring DJ back. Does that mean they will bring him back, Todd?
I'm hopeful. I mean, he was a big piece of, that run game really improving. Number one run stopping defensive lineman in the NFL last year. Like, what he can do to help your front is big time. And you talk about losing DJ Jones and what you're going to do at linebacker, like, something has to give. Either you can just pay a linebacker a little bit less, but then you need DJ Jones. If you don't bring DJ Jones back, then you got to get the most expensive linebacker in the league to try and like shore up that run game again. So, or they could just pay DJ Jones, also pay a linebacker. But then that's when you get number one run defense.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
there. But I think the best thing for them moving forward is to bring DJ Jones back, just because he is such a big force. He played in this defense. He knows all the guys in the room. Has a great relationship with them. He's dominant. Like, why not? We got money to spend, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's just too easy. Again, like the end of what George was saying there, bring up the sack differential. Obviously, didn't give up many sacks, had the most sacks they've ever had. He said that's what it's all about. That's why you just keep feeding those lines. Again, that's one of the things we've been talking about since the Eagles Super Bowl. You just keep feeding those lines because you need to keep those guys going. I can't remember which one. One of them mentioned like building the free agent boards, and they kind of like include their own players in there. Might have been talking about quarterbacks. I can't remember. But like if you were building the free agent board for defensive linemen, DJ Jones, in terms of run stuffers, is the number one guy on that board. And you can bring him back probably for less than $10 million a year. He's a fit. To me, it's just way too easy. I honestly have no idea why you wouldn't bring him back.
To me, I think this one is the numbers might be a little different. DJ's wanting something. The Broncos would love to bring him back at the right price, and he hits free agency, and we'll get to see. The market will show what his true market is right there. But I do believe what George is saying. I do think they would love to bring him back. Number one run stuffer. Why would you not want to bring him back? I think that's maybe why it's got this far, though. Typically, if a team does want a player back, and I think DJ does want to return, if he's not signed up at this point, it's because the markets just probably aren't adding up, right? Or else wouldn't he have signed a contract extension last year or in December and got guaranteed money? We've seen that happen with Derek Wolfe, Chris Harris Jr. Both of those guys signed contracts late in the season before they were becoming free agents. So I think that's why it wouldn't happen, Henry, to answer your question. Like, it seems so obvious. Well, I think that's why it hasn't happened yet. So it's just about where the market hits right there.
And we don't know when they decided like they want him back too. Like,
Yeah.
that could have happened in the offseason and not happened last year for them to sign the extension, but I'm not sure when that happened. But I think he's being honest about wanting him back.
Yeah, I do too.
I'd be more concerned if they had been bringing back other guys. Like if like
Garrett Bowles.
No.
Bring back
But that was like during the season, though. It's like I feel like they're the guys who you signed during the season. Like Todd was saying, like maybe they just didn't know back then. Like, can we spend this money here? But you have like your Cody Barton and Justin Sternat. Like you have that list of free agents. They haven't signed any of those guys back yet. And if they had already started picking off some of those guys so far this offseason, that's when I'd say like, oh, maybe they don't want DJ.
Yeah, I think Garrett Bowles and DJ are like closer than the comps you used of Cody Barton and Justin Sternat. Barton and Justin Sternat are closer to signing like minimum deals.
To me,
where
those
DJ's not close to signing a minimum deal. He's more of a bigger paid guy.
To me, though, it goes back to what Todd said. It's like, when do you realize that you want him back? It's like, if you know you want him back in November, December, then you can do it then. But as soon as the season's over, that's when they go through that whole process of like, let's look through every player. How do we start? And I think everything just resets. And so then he's on that list of guys that, are either off season, you bring him back, or you don't. And again, you haven't brought any of those guys back yet. So I still think he's safe.
Yeah,
because you did with Garrett Bowles, though, so I don't fully agree there.
That wasn't the off season, though.
Yeah, but I think sometimes you be like, oh, I like this guy. You know what I'm saying? And I know his contract's going to expire, but we'll let him hit free agency and see how it goes. Then you watch film. Then you see the other free agents out there. Then you're like, oh, shoot, we need this guy back.
Exactly.
And sometimes that happens, but I don't know if it's happening now. But I hope they bring him back. I really do.
Yep. And then one more guy who definitely isn't leaving this team now, but Nick Bonitto is up for a contract extension because he just finished his third year in the NFL. Here's what the Broncos had to say about potentially getting an extension done with Nick Bonitto this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a priority to you've kind of seen our model, the young player draft, develop, even like guys like Bowles. We like to take care of our own. And so we'll just see. And Nick's obviously had a breakout year. He's a dynamic player, and we want him here a long time.
And no surprise there, you won a guy who, had the third most sacks in the NFL? You want him back this year. after hearing George and his response, do you think this is something that gets done this offseason, or because he still has another year under contract, they kind of wait until middle of the season, end of the season, a year from now?
If it's me, I'm gonna wait until the middle of.
If you're the GM or the player?
If I'm the GM,
Okay.
I'm thanking God that this didn't happen next year, because we're just going to pay him whatever he wants just to bring him back. But ultimately, I probably will wait until the middle of next season, just because I think he had a great year and I think he is a great player. But it was his first breakout year, and sometimes you want to see those years repeated. Now, if you catch a guy where they have a great year on their contract year, then you got to pay him, and that is what it is. But when you have time like the Broncos do right now, I think it would be in their best interest to kind of wait, see how everything goes, make sure he does well, which I think they think he will. But if he comes out with like 6 sacks in the first 3 games, okay, just pay him right
You're in
here.
trouble, yeah.
It's going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, and that's why I go the other way. I think that more often than not, you save a lot of money if you pay guys early. Again, it's the opposite of what the Cowboys do, where they wait till the end and then they have to overpay, and everybody they sign is just so expensive. Whereas, like, how much money the Broncos saved by signing Pat early, and they saved money by signing Court early the last time around. Like, when you just get to guys after that 3rd year, on average, it works out better in the end. And like with Nick Bonitto, it's like if he has a down year sack wise, you could save money next year, but in the long run, you do the best if you just go by the policy of it's cheaper now than it will be a year from now. And I don't. This is one of the cases where you'd be tempted to break that policy, but I still wouldn't do it. I'd stick by it.
I personally would agree with Todd here. I would wait until I see it, because if he proves to be an elite pass rusher for back-to-back years,
him.
yeah,
Just
fine.
pay him.
I will pay him 30, 35, whatever it
sure.
is, and
Yep.
he's going to be worth it. But if, let's say you pay him $25 million this offseason and he turns out to, actually he was a one-hit wonder, man, that's going to be a tough contract, because that's 4 or 5 years. Now, I don't think Nick's that, and I think, so that's what I would do. I'd wait, and then, fine, I'd pay him. We knew Pat Surtain wasn't a one-hit wonder. And we knew Pat Surtain was incredible, so that, I mean, there was no risk in doing that deal. I do think the Broncos will get a deal done. From what I hear, I think Nick's very, very open to it. Even though he could get, $7 million more a season, it's still, he's going to get like $60 million guaranteed.
So you're like, yeah.
Your life is completely changed and you're set right when you sign. He doesn't have to play another game. So I do think a deal gets done. And Henry, what
Definitely.
you're saying about them doing it right after that 3rd year, I think it happens this offseason. It's not going to be a rush. When did they do Pats? Right before the season started, the first week, 1 week before the first game. So I think that's what we're looking at. But no rush, but I do think it gets done. There was one other player, guys, that the Broncos said something along these same lines of, that had Broncos country losing it. And I want to ask you guys what you think about this after I give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, where if you want to get into a game, to a concert, to a show, you got to check out our friends over at Game Time and use the code DNVR for $20 off when you do. There's so many things to love about Game Time. First, the user experience is incredible. Here's got it up on the screen right here. You see exactly what your view is going to look like from the seat. It's a very comprehensive look at the stadium, what your seat's going to look like. They've got the all-in pricing, so you know exactly how much you're going to pay for every single ticket. You don't have to then add fees and taxes onto it. No, it's just going to do it right there for you, so you know exactly how much you are paying. And they've also got the Game Time guarantee, where if you find a ticket in the same row, same section, that's cheaper somewhere else, they're going to refund you 110% of that ticket, just to guarantee that this is a one-stop shop. It's a one-stop shop for everyone here at DNVR. You should make it your one-stop shop and use that code DNVR when you sign up for $20 off your first purchase after downloading the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account, use that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
And shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays. You guys know the sun is coming. The weather is finally feeling back to normal. It's been cold as hell for too long, and it's time for the sun to come back out. And you can get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them perfect choice for all outdoor activities. If you want to rock some shades, they have those. If you need goggles for going skiing or snowboarding, they have those. Shady Rays will definitely keep you covered. And you can head to shadyrays.com and use code DNVR for 35% off. Polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Again, shout out to the Toyota chat for tuning in. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. So one other guy that the Broncos talked about potentially coming back.
Who?
Javonte Williams. We were talking about they were talking about the running backs. I think Sean specifically said, like, we need to add runners to that room. We need to look everywhere to add runners. And then I think George said later, he said, we could still bring Javonte Williams back. I think those were like the exact words he used. And that had Broncos country losing their mind. But then he did add, we could bring Javonte Williams back. He's one of the best run blocker or pass protecting blocks in the NFL. So I think there was a big caveat that a lot of people missed there.
Yeah.
They didn't say we're going to bring Javonte Williams back to be the starting bell cow running back and sign him to a 4-year, $80 million deal. That's how a lot of people like read it and just went off with. It's like, no, they could bring Javonte Williams back. And you know what? They definitely could in that certain role. Am I wrong here?
No, I think that makes sense. And I think they also want to see, like, you know, what else is out there in the market. So, you know, they're leaving some doors open to, you know, be able to have conversations no matter how free agency or the draft goes. But I think it was like a specific role that he was talking about, which I think Javonte does do well in. He does pass protect really well. He does find ways to get out, catch the ball out the backfield, similar to what Samaje did the year before. So, I think that's a good role for him.
Yeah. The big thing to me is that George just doesn't seem like the type of guy who's going to go up there and be like, no, we've seen enough. We just aren't interested in
He
Javonte.
went out of his way to bring up Javonte, though.
Really?
Yeah. He wasn't asked about Javonte.
Huh. I think, I mean, it's nice to say. I'd be shocked if he's back. I think, again, I liked what he did as a pass protector and like leaking out that sort of stuff. I also didn't think that he was noticeably better than Samaje was, and nobody had any issue moving on from him. So I don't buy that there's any chance he'll be back. I in a world in which he doesn't get any offers and you can just give him a veteran minimum and say like, hey, if you earn a spot, you earn a spot. I would absolutely do that. Like, let him come compete. But I don't have much. Having Javonte versus not having Javonte doesn't change anything else I'm doing this offseason.
I mean, isn't that the role that he would be back in, as like pretty much a veteran minimum deal where he's coming back to compete for a spot, show his value as a third down back, being able to protect, especially if your plan A at running back is a rookie, and typically rookies come in and they're not the best pass blockers. So then you have Javonte who's there to be that guy.
Yeah, but again, like you're hoping your third down back is the joker you're trying to find. You know, like that's...
Not every third down.
No, you don't think so?
No.
But imagine you actually hit on one of like the 5 third down. Like Austin Eckler. Are you ever going with Javonte instead of Austin Eckler on a third down?
Austin Eckler doesn't play 100% of snaps.
True.
Anywhere, Chargers or not Redskins.
What about third downs
Commanders. Absolutely, because not every play is built for Austin Eckler.
Okay.
And there's times that I do need 5-man protection plus Javonte because we're actually trying to hit court and something that we schemed. Like, I don't always need Austin Eckler out there getting open. I need somebody that's going to block sometimes too.
Yeah.
And versus certain schemes, I can't. And certain players, I can't have 5 out. I can't get my running back out.
Definitely.
I need
if
somebody
they're rushing 6, then you got it. Yeah.
I have to have somebody that can be in the game that's a great pass protector. So not always can you use that joker or mismatched player in every situation.
Yeah. I get it. I still think if I had Austin Eckler, if it's 3rd and 5 or longer, I'm putting him on the field instead of Javonte.
He's
like just
out.
as a policy. Yeah,
I think
middle linebackers
which is
out the
fair.
middle.
I think 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, you're doing what Todd's doing. You want to make sure he has protection so that those wide receivers can open up.
I don't know, because again, like that, I think you want that guy in the slot. I think that's where you say you're getting covered by a linebacker.
So you're saying you're an empty every third down?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I guess
So who's in the backfield?
You hope that the guy can pass protect if you need him to, but again, that's the point of having a joker running back is to not have him in the backfield and to have him in the slot. You know,
Jaleel's great, and there's no lack of effort there.
Yep.
He's just built where he can't pass protect.
I agree.
Though.
Yeah,
And so,
I agree.
If he's your joker, or you get another guy that's like him and built like him, you can't just say like, well, yeah, I wish he would block, but he can't. I mean, he's just not built for that.
Exactly, but you want that joker to be a guy who you want on the like. The point of having him is to have him on the field on third downs. Like again, Jaleel, I appreciate what he did, but he is not Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, or one of those guys who line up in the slot and say, it's third down. Guess what? This should be easy for us because we can just run a slant here and it's an easy first down. You know,
3rd and 12, you don't get a
Bring
first
a tight
down on
end
a
in.
slant.
You could though. You could though if you have one of those guys against the linebacker.
You're not making it that defenses aren't making it that easy on you. As we talked about it right now, Courtland Sutton is very important to this team, right? Outside of Courtland, I'm probably going to double your joker. You're not just going to be able to line up in 5 wide and run a slant all day. It's not going to work.
Okay, let's go a different route
something
then.
up.
Could you just have Audric to do the pass protection? If you spent this offseason saying instead of bringing Javonte back, you are our backup third down back who's in for pass protection? Because I think you could get somebody else to do a good enough job. Or just say, like, if we really need that, we can have a tight end do that. Like, I don't know that you need to be bringing Javonte back to be what I would call, like, your backup third down guy.
I would say third down running backs, or the third running back on your team is typically specialized, whether it is in catching the ball out of the backfield, whether it is pass protection, whether it's short yardage. So that's why I think it could happen. What I'm saying is it's not the craziest thing.
Oh, okay.
But I think
you agree he's not coming back, probably.
No, I think on a vet minimum sort of deal where he's coming back with, again, he's not a big role player. He's got a small role if he comes back. But I think people freaked out about it too much.
Hank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, worrying too much about a guy that's going to get, if he comes back, $1 million. It's not going to be guaranteed. He's competing for a roster spot. George did not say that in a way of like, yeah, this is our plan at running back here. So
no, I'd be willing to bet he's not back.
Okay. Let's move on to the other side of the ball. Inside linebacker, we found out officially, Alex Singleton told us a month ago, we found out that Drew Sanders, they're going to move him back to inside linebacker, kind of where he ended the season last year after he became healthy again. But George Payton did not make any promises that he is going to be a starter. He said, quote, let's see how it goes. We're going to keep adding good players. George was asked if Alex Singleton and Drew Sanders are going to be the starting linebackers, and that was his response to that. This is no surprise to me at all. Drew Sanders, talented? Yeah. Is there any reason for the GM or head coach to name him a starter right now? No, not in my opinion.
I mean, he started the year at outside linebacker. I think he's very capable of playing inside linebacker, but he still has to play the position. He needs a full training camp at it. He needs a couple games under his belt playing that position. And I think competition is healthy, so I don't know which route they're going to go and who's going to be the starter next year. But like George says, maybe they'll bring some guys in to compete, see whoever has the best training camp and whoever is going to be the starter, and go from there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think his skill set's just more valuable on the inside than the outside.
You said on the outside 2 weeks ago.
I don't think that's really.
You
Did I
said
say that?
yes.
I don't. That doesn't sound like me because I don't think he has the
did.
moves.
No,
I don't think he has the moves.
You said that because
Well, let me say.
every pod since then you have talked about how crowded the outside linebacker room has been because you made him an outside linebacker, and then from then you went on to talk about how crowded it would be for the outside linebackers.
So I'd say his skill set fits better on the inside. Like, I think it's more valuable because I don't see him as like a pass rusher on the edge. Like, he isn't shifty, he isn't bendy, he doesn't have those moves. He's more of like a straight ahead player. The question's all just like figuring out whether he can handle that. Because again, like being the middle linebacker is a tough job. Like, there's a lot that runs through you versus things being simpler on the edge.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, the hit rate is probably higher if you play him on the outside and say like, you're in that Jonathan Cooper type mold. Like, can you develop along those same lines because you are big and strong and kind of like a linear athlete. But, on the inside, that's where the versatility, the ability to blitz, the ability to drop back in coverage, like just the size, the length. I think you're playing to the upside there if you're gambling on him inside.
And I think if he's inside, what Todd, you can go.
No, just the great thing about him being able to play inside is that normally there's a lot of communication. There's a lot of things you have to do. A lot of people you got to get lined up. Alex is so good at that. Like, he can literally just focus on playing his position, doing his job, handling his responsibility. Alex will tell everybody their job. He'll tell everybody assignment. He might even tell Drew, hey, bump over a little bit. You got the B gap, not the A gap. Like, it would be very easy for him to go in there and kind of be single-minded that first year until he gets – really playing linebacker under his belt.
And here's what I think is going to happen with the inside linebacker rooms. After being in Indy, I think this is really the plan for the Broncos. I think it's Alex Singleton's for sure back. Yeah. I had a couple of questions on if they were going to do him dirty like they did you dirty. Your final year with the Broncos, what was supposed to be your final year with the Broncos. No worries about that anymore. He's back. And then I do think they're going to go after a big linebacker, inside linebacker in free agency. Zach Bond, Nick Bolton, Dre Greenlaw. Probably my guess right now would be Nick Bolton. And then you have this very talented guy in Drew Sanders behind him. And then they can see, can he take over Alex Singleton's role or position in 2026 after learning behind him, maybe getting a little playing time this year. And so I think they're finally developing Drew for the long haul right now. They're saying, okay, start of the season, we're going to have him at inside linebacker. He's going to be there and then learn from this next guy they bring in. I think they finally invest in inside linebacker. We'll see, though. And I think that would be a great plan for Drew. He's been bounced around so much. Yeah. He needs stability. Yeah. And stability where he doesn't have to have so much on his shoulders in terms of being a starter this first year. So, but obviously, if they're not able to get an inside linebacker in free agency, then you do go with you go with him. And like you said, you have Alex Singleton there to really be a steady mentor for him, too.
Interesting. We'll see.
Yep, we will. One thing the Broncos are going to have to do is take advantage of this rookie window, and that was kind of a big talking point yesterday from Sean and George is, look, we have this opportunity here where a lot of teams capitalize, winning with a rookie on their or a quarterback on their rookie contract right now, and they know that this is their window to win a Super Bowl right now, and that's kind of how they're talking. But they're also saying they're not taking they're not. What's the word? They're not
going all in.
No, they're not taking it for granted. They know that last year they had a great offseason. They know they have to do that again, or they're going to be taking a step back.
For sure. Yeah. You got to keep getting better and continue to have good drafts. Continue to do a good job in free agency. Make good decisions on the guys that you're bringing back. Like, it's a never-ending job for the front office of how do I keep making this team competitive. Like, you can never rest on your laurels in that position because guys get older, things change. You got to move on for some guys. You got to always be constantly looking out there, constantly finding. There might be some times where you have to go in the middle of the season, we need a starter, and you pick the right one, and he helps you make a playoff run. Like, you got to always be looking for new talent and always stay on the grind on those positions.
Yeah, and with those positions, looking for the backup there is the quarterback position. The Broncos have to get a quarterback. Sean addresses it. It's needs, musts, or wants. A must is backup quarterback because Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, both free agents. I asked Sean about it, and he said, we don't know how that's going to unfold yet, but that is a must. We have to address that. Guys, I would be shocked if it's not Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham that's back. I'd be shocked if they go outside the building to find a backup quarterback. We heard Sean talk about it all throughout the year, how much he loved that room because how much they loved each other and how unique it was for all of those guys to be hanging out with their wives. I don't think they're going to bring both back. I think Sean would love to bring both back if possible, but I just don't think he's going to want to spend $13 million on the backup quarterback position there. But I do think it's going to be one of those two guys that are back.
And going back to the rookie contract thing, I think it's kind of interesting to hear what they said because I didn't hear it as like aggressive. You know, it sounded more like follow the process, build the best defense, special team. But George ended it by saying maybe you're a little bit more aggressive as you move on in his career. Which is interesting that, like, at some point you kind of put your foot on the gas, and they aren't necessarily doing that now.
I know they think it's Super Bowl windows now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious answer. Again, all the stats would say in those first 4 years. But you also look at, like, what Sean Payton did in New Orleans with Drew Brees when it's like, okay, Drew's almost done. let's borrow money from the future. Let's pay guys now. Let's stack these teams because this window is ending. And it's a little bit different when there's like that hard out versus, you get the 4 years on the rookie deal and then it goes up from like whatever, $8 million in the last year to like 16 in the next year to like 20 to 25. So you kind of fade out of it versus like losing Drew Brees. You just invest and you invest and you invest. And he happened to just stick around for so long, longer than they probably expected. And that's why you wound up with like 5 of those years and they're still trying to get out of that cap hell. But I thought that piece was interesting. Maybe you're a little bit more aggressive as you move on in his career.
I know that's not how Sean Payton's feeling. He believes the window's now.
The window is now. The window is now.
That's exactly it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
agree.
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
You're trying to say how George said the window's later.
No, he didn't say that. He said maybe you're a little bit more aggressive as you move on in his career, which I thought was interesting because, again, the window is now.
Yeah, exactly. So who's the backup quarterback? What do you think? Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I mean, they'd want him back.
Do you agree with me that it's one of those two guys?
You would think. I had a crazy thought that you could go get Dylan Gabriel. Like if he slips in the draft, because he had some really good games and he has some skills that are similar to Bo coming out of that same offense. Like I'd be interested to see him as a backup. I don't know. I'd be more curious to hear if the Broncos thought there was any value of having 2 guys coming from the same system working together. But yeah, I mean, there's a 98, 95% chance that it's either Jarrett or Zach.
Yeah,
and there's like a 15, 20% chance that they're both back, I think.
I think you would want to go like a veteran player. Because I don't know, you're bringing Gabriel in here for what at that point? To sit behind Bo for the next 15 years?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think you would have somebody more veteran who could help Bo have a good relationship with Bo and kind of be like another set of eyes and ears more so than somebody that is trying to learn and take time away from time that you would be like coaching Bo.
But you probably do both. So, because like there's so many veteran quarterbacks out there that wind up on practice squads instead of on the active roster. Or, I mean, they'd obviously, I think, be willing to just roster 3 quarterbacks again. So I think they're going to have 3 in the building regardless. If you go with like an undrafted guy, I think an undrafted guy is probably most likely, or even like bring a Ben DiNucci back if you wind up with a Stidham or a Wilson. If it's just like a random vet, then maybe it is somebody with maybe a little bit more upside back there who could grow into that role. But yeah, I agree. Like you need a veteran in there at some point.
Yeah, and Stidham and Wilson are both veterans. Like they would suffice for that veteran presence.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I had to guess right now, I'd say it's Stidham that's back. Because I think Zach Wilson has a little more possibility to get that Sam Darnold type of deal and opportunity to, a former top 2 pick in the draft that just had some football rehab with a good offensive mind. Obviously, Sam Darnold did that with San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan. Yeah. Zach Wilson did it with Sean Payton and Davis Webb, and Bo Nix had a really good year. So I could see some team getting a little excited about Zach Wilson and saying, we'll give you an opportunity to be a starter. You can come in here with whatever rookie we draft. Maybe it's the Raiders who say, we'll bring Zach Wilson in with Shedeur Sanders, and you guys get to compete for this starting job, or Cam Ward, or whoever the third quarterback is taken there. The Steelers might do that, something like that, where they have a quarterback competition, where I know Stidham last year after the Broncos named Bo the starter, Stidham came out and said, like, man, I still feel like I'm a starter in the NFL. That's probably the mindset you want your backup quarterback to have, is like, man, I can be a starter, but I'm here to help the quarterback ahead of me. But I don't know if the NFL is going to feel that way when free agency comes around and gives Stidham that true opportunity to compete for a starting job. And I do think that Sean really wants to keep one of those guys to continue to help Bo, because there's no denying everything that happened last year was great. So you got to keep Davis Webb around, which I think there's going to be a little promotion for him when the coaching staff comes out in order to keep him. And then you want to keep, obviously, they were able to keep pretty much everyone outside of Johnny Morton, who is now the play caller for the Lions in Detroit. So I think that they're going to want to keep one of those guys.
I think it's smart. If it's not broke, got to fix it.
Is that stuff overrated, though? You've been in rooms, older mentors that are backups or journeymen that are around younger players. Is that real? Can those guys help? Is that overrated? Do we put too much of an emphasis on it?
No, I don't think it's overrated, and it's not so much like they're another coach either. It could just be little stuff throughout training camp or the week or something they do in practice. It's not like they have to be coaching the guy up. It's just a read they make in practice, and it's like, how did you see that? You know what I'm saying? It's something simple like that. Just be a little bit of nugget of information that the quarterback can put in their back pocket and maybe use down the line. It doesn't have to be like he's another coach for the guy. It's just another arm that could be doing some good things right that you don't think about or you haven't done yet in your career that you could see, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a coach, but sometimes if you just have like undrafted players, okay, they're either making the same mistakes I'm making or they're making worse mistakes. It's not something new for me to like learn of. Even if they make a mistake, like I can learn from that as opposed to like they're just doing exactly what I'm doing. They're just trying to learn exactly how I'm trying to learn. It's just a little bit different for a quarterback to be able to see.
Yeah.
If they got Taysom Hill, do you think they'd keep 2 other quarterbacks or 3? Because you always just assume a team is going to have 3 because that's what they do in the NFL now. But Taysom, I'm not sure how that counts.
I would put him at a different position and still keep 3 quarterbacks.
I would still keep 3 too, I think.
Yeah.
But makes you want, because again, like your third guy is usually like a Ben DiNucci type.
I don't think we have to worry about I did some more digging on his injury. I didn't realize how bad his injury was that he suffered at the end of the season. I don't think he's going to be healthy until like November or December. So I don't think any team is going to sign him now or even in training camp. I think he's really a guy that might have ended his career. If you're talking about 35-year-old that's not going to be healthy till November or December, maybe the Broncos sign him in November or December, but I don't think he's going to be on an active roster and part of anyone's plans come week 1.
Okay.
Which, when we had that conversation last week, I didn't realize how bad his injury was.
Cool.
Looked like you were looking something up.
No.
Okay, and the final thing here, I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but since we did hear from Sean about it, the Michael Wilhoite situation, have you guys talked about that on the show?
No, we haven't.
So on Sunday, the Broncos outside linebackers coach was arrested, and a few more details have come out. It's alleged, so not charged yet or anything, but it's being alleged that he punched a police officer at DIA. I believe he was dropping someone off at DIA. There was a little altercation. He punched a police officer, drove off, obviously.
Allegedly.
Yes. Yeah. Didn't I say that? Allegedly.
Still another one in.
Yeah. Allegedly.
We don't need to be getting
They arrested
sued.
him, spent the night at jail, had his first appearance on Monday. His second appearance is now March 10th. Sean was asked about it and said, we're on top of it relative to local authorities as well as the league office. So they're just waiting for more information to come here. Obviously, it's just allegedly right now, but not a good situation popping up right now, especially as Sean Payton is in like the final week of putting together his staff. We know the Broncos moved on from their inside linebacker coach, and who knows if Wilhoite, what his role was going to be in this new adjusted staff right now. But this might create a little last minute chaos for Sean putting together his staff, as this is obviously a very serious thing if he does end up being charged and end up being accused of this. So we'll continue to follow it, but it's a situation that's developing at a very interesting time, as Sean was, I think, like dotting the I's and crossing the T's for his coaching staff, and now he might just have to put the brakes on it for a couple of more days or something.
Sounds good.
And it doesn't. I don't think it sounds good.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the big news thing that's coming out of this past week. But man, there was so much out of Indy, and a lot of stuff to continue to break down on the DNVR Broncos podcast. You hear any good comments from the Toyota chat today? We've got Henry Chisholm chiming in the Toyota chat.
I think I'm
there.
crazy. A
For
late
what?
round flyer for your third quarterback? That just seems like textbook.
Yeah,
I don't think that's crazy.
I don't hate it.
They think I'm crazy.
But I mean, we're talking like your last 6th round pick, because the Broncos don't have a 7th round pick.
Totally.
Wouldn't use anything
No.
more than that.
But again,
though.
like if you don't like Ben DiNucci, then you'd better love that late 6th round rookie quarterback, because you're going to need a third quarterback somehow, and you're probably not paying what you paid. I mean, $12.5 million for your 2 backups last year. Not doing that again.
No, you're certainly not doing that again. I mean, probably if you're truly just looking for a third quarterback to be a camp arm, you're not drafting that guy. That is an undrafted free agent that you're bringing in. If you're looking someone to replace Jarrett Stidham next year, then you might look to the 6th round of a draft or something like that.
I think they need more than a camp arm because they're going to need somebody in the building all season. Like you're looking for that practice squad,
practice
quarterback
squad guy. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow to continue to break down what we learned and what's going on with the Broncos. We are 10 days away from free agency. We will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. on the DNVR Broncos podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.